Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to have you here today on Simply Presents SocialChorus and Southern Company Gas. You're all very familiar with the format here, so we're just waiting a little while we get everyone booked in as our participants. The numbers are going up nicely. While we're waiting, a quick few words about Simply Communicate for those of you who this is your first Simply Presents event. We are the community for internal communications consultants and people working inside large organizations doing internal comms, and good heavens, it's quite a job at the moment, isn't it? So Lisa, just want to push through a couple of slides about us as introduction, and then we'll be getting going. So we're London based, and we have two sides to ourselves: Simply Consulting, where we go in and help companies basically making beyond Zoom. So it's the digital workplace. It's making things happen within large organizations using tools very similar to our wonderful partners here in terms of SocialChorus. And of course, there's the Simply community as well. And we're very proud to work with as partners for large organizations around the world. Okay, well, we're getting very close to the magic number of people. So let me introduce our speakers today. We have, I'm very pleased to say, Rachel Williams, who's Strategic Advisor at SocialChorus. A lot of you will know Chuck Goes. Rachel works with Chuck and has been advising Southern Company Gas on this interesting case study. And we're also very pleased to have JP Salmon, who's Director of Internal Comms at the Southern Company Gas. So, Rachel, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mark. It is a pleasure to be with you this morning, and we'll begin our conversation today. Well, I have to say that JP is the star, and the work that he's done is our case study we'll be discussing. In order to provide a little context for you, what I'd like to walk you through is the communications transformation model that we worked together on to bring about the discussion we'll have today. So Lisa, if we could show that model slide, and I'll walk you quickly through the framework. The communications transformation model is a proprietary system developed by SocialChorus based on 7 different categories. As you can see here in the visual, the foundation of any communications practice is the skill set of the team members included. But we don't start there. We look at the actual activities and outcomes of corporate communications and the performance of those things to be able to come back and see where we might strengthen our foundation. So we begin looking at the ability of an internal communications team to reach its employees and wherever that is based on technology or access. We look at their ability to target those employees with relevant information. So we're not spraying and praying that our message hits, but we're actually delivering important messages to the right employees at the right time. We then look at content. Have we become satisfied with the same basic articles and emails? Are we being adventurous and helping our employees have an interesting experience with the messages we're sharing? Then we look at data, which I find in my partnerships with organizations is often one of the categories that internal communications practitioners have not had access to, where data was either not very robust or not easily available. And so as we develop skills in analysis and insights, this becomes a really key player in the elevation of the practice of communications. Then we look at our ability to enable other people within the organization to share their message directly, whether that be leadership, subject matter experts, or people who are closest to the work. So that then we truly can prove that corporate communications drives the business, which we know that businesses and our organizations would not function without our efforts, but how do we actually prove that? And when we assess all of those activities and outcomes, we then come back to the skill sets of the team. And so that's the model that JP and his team and I and the SocialChorus team walked through to bring us to the place where we are today. So hopefully that's helpful context. And now I'll quit hogging the microphone and ask JP to tell us a little bit of his story. So JP, I'd love you to start kind of with a little bit of background and understand more about Southern Company Gas as an organization and why you decided to partner with SocialChorus for your employee experience journey.
Sure. Thanks, Rachel, and thanks, Mark, and everybody for having me today. Really excited to talk about this. So yeah, why did we decide to partner with SocialChorus? So I'll just tell you, at Southern Company Gas, we want to be the most innovative energy company in the industry. We want to be innovative in the solutions we offer our customers, but also innovative in the solutions we offer our employees. So we wanted to provide a best-in-class solution for our employees, and that meant innovating away from relying on email and a desktop-centric intranet. That was important for us for a number of reasons. So first of all, while we have some non-regulated businesses in our portfolio, at the end of the day, we're a family of gas utilities, and we've got about 4,500 employees, and they're all spread out across multiple states. In fact, about 60% of our employees are field-based. That means they're either in a truck or on a job site most of the day. They're not in front of a computer all day. They're certainly not sitting there waiting for an email to hit their inbox, and they're not necessarily checking the intranet multiple times a day. So by partnering with SocialChorus to design a platform that enables us to reach employees at any time, right there on their smartphone, regardless of where they are, we empowered employees to stay connected with the company and also their coworkers. But Rachel, another reason for this sort of transformational shift away from relying simply on traditional communications methods, it was important because we were seeing a shift in the makeup of our workforce. We were beginning to see a lot of millennials and Gen Z employees come on board. And look, Rachel, they've grown up with a mobile device right there in their hand, right? So they demand this type of mobile digital engagement, lengthy emails, desktop-centric intranets that require, access, network access, and punching in your user ID and password every time. That simply wasn't going to keep these employees engaged. So that's really why we decided to partner with SocialChorus to design this solution.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, JP. I love it when organizations are able to make communications technology decisions that truly reflect their workforce. And that the desire in those technology implementations is to create a best-in-class experience. That's kind of where you want to be. And I wanted to mention for our attendees that the Q&A function is open. We will have dedicated Q&A at the end of the presentation, but if some of our conversation sparks a question for you, feel free to pop it in, and Mark will help us answer those as we go. So thank you for that. All right, JP, so we know why you partnered with SocialChorus, and in that partnership, you knew that the communications transformation model came sort of over and above the implementation, right? So you had the implementation portion, and then you had the communications transformation. When you were presented with the model, what were your initial thoughts about the model as we kind of walked through it?
Well, I can tell you that we actually went through, to your point, we went through the transformation model a few months after we had already launched our platform. So I had been working with the SocialChorus team for some period of time already. And I say that to say that I had already built a high level of trust with the team. So I came into the transformation model ready and expecting to be impressed, and I certainly was. So to answer your question more specifically, what I guess I really appreciated the most about the model is that it starts with an assessment of where we are right now, and then it builds from there. So we identified where we wanted to be, and that's in terms of user adoption, engagement, growth, etc. We identified where we wanted to be, and we were able to build strategies and plans that would serve as a roadmap to help us get to where we wanted to be. And I'll just tell you where we are right now. I'm happy to say is we're at 85% user adoption. We've got a 90% retention rate. So those employees that are downloaded the app and are using it, they're coming back, month after month, and they're continuing to check out the content that we have there. So that's where we are now, and we're continuing to execute on plans to expand our content strategy so that we can continue to grow the platform moving forward.
That's fantastic. I think as internal communicators, we so rarely get the opportunity to step back and think about, it's so often my hair's on fire and that needed to go out yesterday, and what event am I planning, and all of this. And so having the assessment as sort of a grounding place to take a moment and really think about what you're doing is so important. So I'm glad that was a pivotal part of your experience. So as we were going through the assessment, was there anything that surprised you at the different topics or categories we looked at, anything like that?
You know, Rachel, I think the fact that the team was pretty well aligned on what our strengths were and also what our area of opportunities were. That was a little surprising to me that we were so well aligned on that. So, for example, we all pretty much knew that our biggest area of opportunity was really harnessing the power of data analytics and applying that intel to our communication strategies. But look, I think the reason for that is actually quite simple, right? And that is we didn't have a platform that provided us with the tools to address this gap. So through the platform we have now, we do have that. So in fact, our analytics are so robust. You kind of touched on this in your introductory comments. The analytics are so robust. In some ways, we're still trying to get our arms fully around the data. So that surprised me how well aligned we are. And look, on the strength side, we knew that the content we were creating was good, that it was compelling content. We knew that we were creating a good mix of engaging content that our employees wanted to consume. So now we're trying to leverage some of our strengths and be really intentional around including stuff like short videos, user-generated content, things like that into our communication strategies. But I think the most surprising thing about the assessment process was just how well aligned we were, but then knowing that in our areas of opportunities, there was little that we could do on our own.
That's fantastic, because I think, especially, so just for context for our audience, JP, you manage a team of about 12, the people that we worked on to implement this were about 12 people, is that right? And
That's
they
right.
all have different business units and different leadership structures from an operational perspective. And so the fact that they were actually aligned is truly, could be surprising, because their day-to-day efforts are not connected. You came together to implement this platform for a range of different organizations within Southern Company Gas. And I think it is also true to not necessarily expect people's perspective of internal communications to be the same. We also actually partnered a bit with your external communications team, which is going to have a very different perspective. I can remember having a conversation about the external communications team not necessarily understanding the power of aligning the employee audience to support external messaging. And when we were able to talk about that effort through this platform, they were going to tap into networks and circles of influence that your external communicators had never been able to target well. And so that this was a really great synergy. So having the conversation about the assessment, I think, was very powerful. And the fact that your professionals that you and your colleagues brought different perspectives but were able to align was really strong. I also want to tap into what you said about content and the generation of it. And we'll show some examples and have shown some examples of your employee generated content, but I think it certainly surprised me. And I think it even surprised you, and you know your employees better than I do, about their willingness and openness and pride when you gave them the ability to share their work experience, how they came through and shared great messages because you enabled that in a safe space for them. So very exciting kind of ways to find alignment within the internal communications team, and then also find delightful surprises. Excellent.
Yeah, look, Rachel, I'd love to comment on that a little bit, actually. So, you know, aligning the internal and external communications functions is really a critical component of our overall corporate communication strategy, right? So, so we want to be able to leverage the content that we and employees are creating within this platform and empower our employees to sort of share that externally to their own social media networks, things like that. So really helping to control the company narrative, but also the narrative for the industry to some degree too. Being able to leverage employees as a mouthpiece for the company, as ambassadors for the company and the brand and the industry. That's a critical component of what we're trying to achieve here, because you know, there's a lot of research that suggests, you know, if you know a person that works at a company, you're already more likely to have a better opinion of that company. And so hearing directly from those employees, it's impactful, right? So it's a critical component of our overall communication strategy, and one that we're looking to continue to build out as we move along in this model.
That's fantastic. And I've seen that because, of course, I'm a fan of Southern Company Gas, so I follow you on all the social platforms, and I've truly seen the power of that voice, and the message is very clear. I wanted to pause just for a moment. Mark, are there any questions that we should bring in now, or should we keep going with our conversation?
Yes, I think that would be wise. Just a few technical questions, really. So, and they come to the same thing. What challenges did you have getting field employees to download the app, and how did you overcome them? And how do you address the issue of employees not expecting to be paid for reading company messaging during non-work hours? So, how did you get them to download it in the first place, and how did you convince them to read stuff in the evenings, as it were?
Yeah, great question, and one that's a little bit difficult to answer because there's not one simple answer to it, right? So it started with, so we did a lot of work up front, right? So we did some focus group testing, we did some communication surveys to our employees, and sort of tested the water. You know, we asked them very, very bluntly, hey, if we delivered to you a mobile app for company news and information, would you use it? Do you see this becoming your primary source of communication? You know, we asked them even so far as, because at the time, not all of our employees had company issued smartphones. So we asked them, would you be willing to use your own phone and your own data plan to access company information? And look, the answer wasn't always exactly what we wanted to hear, right? We would love for it to be 100%. Yes, absolutely, we would do it. So we started there and kind of got a lay of the land, so to speak. And then we built a strategy around how to address that, right? So one of the things that we do have the luxury of is we still have a lot of face-to-face or in-person forums, obviously pre-pandemic. So we went and got in front of employees. We traveled around. We talked to employees. We kind of showed them the benefit of what this platform would do. In full disclosure, when we launched this thing, look, we had a little bit of the carrot aspect too, right? It wasn't just the stick. So we said, hey, you know, anybody who downloads the app in the first 10 days is going to be entered into a contest to win an iPad, things like that. So it was a combination of different things that we did to actually get employees to download the app. Now, we also knew that once we had them, you know, downloading the app, that we had to keep them using it, right? So we knew that we had to have good content in there. We had to be very intentional about our content strategy, right? So we started working on the content strategy 6-8 months before we even launched this thing. So that was a critical component. I think you also asked Mark about, you know, getting, you know, how do we get employees to use it while they're not on the clock, things like that. We had some concerns. Right. Yeah, for sure. So we had some concerns certainly from our field leadership teams that, hey, look, employees are going to expect to be able to punch into the clock when they're you know, consuming content, things like that. So we did take the line with the leadership team that, like, look, this isn't necessarily mandatory, right? So we don't want people to feel like they have to, because what we wanted to do is we wanted them to want to come to it, right? So we were intentional, again, about the content that we were putting in there, about making sure that we were engaging them, right? Getting them to generate content, because look, they want to see content that's generated by their coworkers, things like that. So we had to sort of alleviate some of those concerns from a leadership perspective, but from an employee perspective, we didn't have any concerns. Like we were able to draw them in with the kinds of content and keeping them engaged with it, that it wasn't a concern at that level.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yes, those were good conversations that SocialChorus was able to bring the perspective of working with global companies, and where different regions of the world have different privacy expectations and rules and things like that. And so we walked through the best, what we're capable of from a messaging perspective and a technology perspective, and then made the right value propositions to the employees to let them know it was important. I remember, JP, for us to honor their concern. If I use my personal phone, are you going to have access to my other data? and answering those questions in FAQ documents and making sure that we took that into consideration so they felt very comfortable. And then, like you said, you're opening it up and trusting employees to share about their work experience was massive. And it's the highest performing content, I think, or at least the channel, the topic of employee, the highest performing. I know Kim, your CEO, gets a lot of engagement, so I'm sure she competes directly. But then making sure that you were providing what you promised when you turned on the platform and said, we will inform you in 2 minutes a day, help you make better decisions about your work, you actually delivered on that. And that's why you're seeing such incredible numbers. Fantastic.
That's right.
Okay, so kind of back to the communications transformation model. So when we walked through the process, it's sort of a 3-step process. It's the introduction to the framework to make sure that we all understand what we're looking at. It's the actual assessment where your individual team members each assessed, and that's where you got that alignment where you saw when we came back and talked about what everybody assessed as. And then the final portion are recommendations. So based on your team's conversation, your team prioritized something. One of my favorite phrases is you can't eat an elephant all at one time. You have to take a bite and then another bite. And so we couldn't work on all 7 at the beginning. We prioritized a few categories, had some recommendations, and knew we would come back to the assessment in a few months, half a year. So as you have implemented those first sets of recommendations, how has that process been? Has anything fundamentally changed about the way you practice communications at Southern Company Gas?
You know, I think to answer the first part of your question, what's it been like to implement the recommendations? Look, occasionally I'm given to hyperbole, but without hyperbole here, I can really say it's been the most rewarding thing of my professional career, right? So to see the results and the level of engagement that we're seeing with employees interacting with this platform has been incredibly rewarding. I mean, truly incredible. But to answer the second part of your question, you know, what has fundamentally changed? I would say we're now able to provide an even higher level of strategic counsel to our internal business partners. And I call them business partners and not clients because often that implies that we're at the table simply to take orders, and we are not, right? So we're at the table to turn company strategy into action and to help determine what company strategy should be. And really because of this platform and the insights that we've learned through analytics and the use cases we've developed that were part of the recommendations from the transformation model, we're able to be far better strategic business partners internally. So I would say that that's probably the thing that's fundamentally changed the most about how we go about our business.
I love that answer for a couple of reasons. One, I joined SocialChorus because one of their pillars is to elevate communicators. So it's not necessarily just about elevating the practice of communications, but actually the people who are passionate about getting their message out to employees and making sure that employees have the experience that they want when they're seeking employment. I also love that answer. So I love that because I'm fulfilling part of the reason in this practice that I joined SocialChorus for. The second reason I love that is because I firmly believe that communicators should be strategic partners. You should be invited to all of the tables and have chairs at all of them because your perspective and connection to the employee base, how behavior changes in your organization, and what messages resonate most from leaders. You're the translator. And so if you're not invited, and JP, in my interactions with you, I've seen that you have done an excellent job of building those relationships with leaders. It's not always the opportunity of the communications practitioner to have the relationships that I've seen you have. But I think because of what you've demonstrated, the numbers you've delivered, because of your strategic approach, you're even more invited into those initial conversations that allow you to truly drive the business, because you know what the strategic priorities are. You know what the COO and the CIO are interested in accomplishing, and you can support that because you're in the conversation. So that whole answer just makes me very happy. Thank you. All right, so we will I kind of want to, oh, go ahead, Mark. Yes.
Yeah, we do have a question there, which is from Dave Watson on this subject. Is the platform recognized by leadership and employees as the sort of central IC hub? I mean, have you seen a decrease in email usage, or is that still a hard habit to break? How do you know that you're being successful here, JP?
Yeah, so a couple of ways we can tell how we're being successful is pure numbers, right? So I can look at these numbers and I can contrast and compare to what we would get on other platforms, right? Whether it's intranet, whether it's email, things like that. So I know when I look at the number of engagements or impressions, so how many times a piece of content is clicked on or it's liked or commented on, things like that. Those are all sort of those key performance indicators that tell the story of how successful we're being. And look, SocialChorus has provided me with a lot of intelligence on benchmarks around the industry and things like that. So I have a lot of data points that would demonstrate the level of success we're having right now. The question about leadership, right? So I do have to say, Rachel mentioned Kim, right? So Kim Green is the CEO of Southern Company Gas, and she is she's an engineer, but she is a communicator at heart, right? So she is a champion for this thing, and it has absolutely trickled down to the management council level and the rest of the officers in the company. So Kim we have our own channel set up. It's called Connect with Kim, right? And she posts content in there, and she'll take, what's beautiful about this platform is you can just take a video with your iPhone, right? And then upload it to the channel. And she is amazing at it. It doesn't matter if she's volunteering on the Greenbelt here in Atlanta, or she's stepping out of a board meeting somewhere and wants to give employees a quick update, right? She can do it from her phone. She can upload it right to her channel, and boom, she's connected all employees with access to content that was previously undeliverable on another platform, right? So we're very fortunate. So while we talk about the numbers and the engagement that we're getting at Southern Company Gas, I cannot tell you that it's because JP and JP's team are so brilliant. We are very fortunate to have such a champion in Kim and the rest of our officer team, and that they are very vocal supporters of this, and they're very active in the platform, which makes a huge difference, I think, for employees.
That's amazing. Do you moderate content? We've had a question. Have you run into any major issues? Have you had to go back to someone and ask them to rephrase or to take down a post at all?
So to answer the second part, no, we haven't had an issue. We put a lot of trust in our employees to sort of behave in a professional manner, right? We've kind of empowered them to do so, and they have. So we haven't had any issues. Moderating content, we do moderate it. So within the platform itself, SocialChorus can give you the option to put all user-generated content into sort of a review cycle where you actually click approve. We don't do that. We trust our employees to participate and engage professionally. So we have one channel that we just call it the employee channel, right? Not super clever, but we have one channel that is open to all employees to just share pictures, share. One thing that's big for us, right? Safety is our number one value. So we encourage people to share their near misses, right? Things that could have been a safety hazard, things like that, just engaging in their day-to-day work, sharing best practices, things like that. That's what we encourage employees to share via this app. So look, we go in there, and myself, folks on the team, we'll look at the content that's being generated. We don't put it in any sort of a formal review process at all. We just kind of look to make sure that nothing violates, community standards, things like that. So far, we haven't had any issue. We haven't had any issues with comments on content, really, or anything like that. So I think maybe we're fortunate in that space, but I would encourage other people or companies that are considering this type of a platform to not shy away from that, to instead harness that, right? So if people are passionate enough to go in and generate content and contribute to it, right? Shape that for your good, right? Pull those people in, figure out how you help them generate content that you would want to see in the platform.
That's fantastic. So there's two things that I would like to highlight, specifically around leadership engagement and then around content generation and sort of shaping that for Southern Company Gas is good. During the launch, first of all, JP and his team planned a really robust launch sequence, knowing that when you launch a platform, it's not just a big bang and then nobody talks about anything, right? There was a kind of a formal process going forward to continue to market the platform. But their initial launch included like site activations, like he mentioned, getting in front of employees, having fun, photo booths and things like that at different locations. But from a leadership perspective, I only saw photos, I didn't get to attend, but they hosted a leadership event in an evening where it was just beautifully set up. It was really like you stepped away from the office. And this was an exclusive situation to be in, where the leadership got to see previews of the platform, hear from leaders who like JP and his team about how they had gone through the process to bring this project to life. And so it was almost like a private direct invitation to those leaders who they knew had influence to bring them into the fold first. So none of them were surprised, and they've been treated to a beautiful experience. From the managing content perspective, one of the sort of recommendations we talked about within the content portion of the communications transformation framework was kind of the surprising volume that we got. And there were some vocal employees, people who would post frequently, who were very active. And so the team decided to enlist them in what they called the Fuel Squad, Fuel being the name of the program, and inviting these people who sort of rose up as leaders within the conversation and give them a little more coaching, give them some great ways to start conversations so that they were actually scaling themselves, using people who were passionate, giving them a little bit of training and guidance so that they had extra eyes on the employee channel in the conversation. And so it was a great way of sort of moving quickly and grabbing at those opportunities that they didn't see coming. That was really inspiring from my perspective during the process.
We're getting a lot of requests. Leonie Atkins and Kristen Vitatis, can we see some examples? I'd love to see what sort of user-generated content is being posted on the site. I don't know if we can show a video or give some examples.
Well, we do actually have a treat. We planned it for the end, but we'll go ahead and show it now. JP, would you like to tell them about the video you have prepared?
Sure. So we were actually just internally at Southern Company Gas, we were preparing to celebrate sort of the 1-year anniversary of launching, as you mentioned, Fuel, which is the brand, the name of our platform. So we put together a video to sort of celebrate that, right? And what we did is we pulled a lot of user-generated content. So we were putting together a video, and then we thought, hey, maybe it'd be good to show in this in this forum as well. But it's a video that we pulled out to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the platform and to show some of the success we've had. But really more than that, to celebrate all of our employees who make up Fuel, right? And so we pulled the assets that you'll see in the video are pulled directly from our platform, right? So the pictures, the everything in there is kind of pulled from our platform. So yeah, we're really excited to celebrate 1 year, and so yeah, that's what the video is all about.
Okay, maybe we could look at that. well done. There's also a slide I would like to show. It's the 811 slide, Lisa. It has a screenshot of the mobile device and then 3 rectangles. And JP, if you don't mind, it's providing the background around your 811 sort of contest and your user submitted content.
Yeah, so sure. We've done this a couple of times throughout the year to really encourage employees to generate content, right? So 811 Day is, for those not in the utility industry might not know, but 811 is a number in a lot of our states here in the US where you call to have your utility lines marked before you do any digging in your yard, right? Even if you're just planting shrubs in your front yard. But so we wanted to really get employees engaged and activate employees as part of encouraging folks to call 811. So getting employees to contribute photos, videos of different things for 811 was important. But we've also done that, with a couple other things throughout the year. So look, Rachel, we try to tie in fun with work sometimes, right? And we try to get employees to get engaged with the platform is really what it's all about. So we've seen some good success with things like this 811 challenge and some other things. We did it. We've done some heart walks where we've encouraged people to post pictures of themselves doing a virtual heart walk. So and part of it, look, is just learning how we engage employees in this new environment that we all find ourselves in. So things like this, I think, really go a long way.
Absolutely. You generate that cycle of engagement. I find out about the contest, I enter the contest, I watch the submissions, and then I see who wins or who rises to the top. So definitely a great engagement starter. Well, so I want to sort of round out our formal conversation and ask you, so now you've been through the assessment model, you've implemented recommendations. We're going to come back and visit that as a team together. How do you see this model carrying you forward in the future?
Well, I'll say that really our focus has been on trying to create excellence right now, right? So for the last 12 months, we've been implementing the learnings from the model, applying those to maturing the platform as we continue to sort of fundamentally shift how we communicate and engage with employees. Obviously, the pandemic happened earlier this year, and that resulted in a heightened focus on, employee connectivity, but it also gave us a great platform to communicate critical safety messaging during this time. So, between focusing on maturing our platform and making it really a part of our culture, coupled with the pandemic sort of disrupting our priorities to some extent, right? We're really only now thinking through what year 2 will look like, and what we want to accomplish. But I do know this. We've got the right team in place internally, and we've got the right partnership with you guys in SocialChorus to get us where we need to be. So look, I've never had more faith in an internal communications team than I do in the team I've got right now. And I've probably never had more faith in a partnership than I do with SocialChorus. So look, over the next few months, we'll begin to flesh out our future goals. But just know that I'm able to do so with a tremendous level of confidence right now.
I think that's fantastic. I think we've handled a lot as communicators this year. And I think that Southern Company Gas, both internally and externally, has done so beautifully. And so it's been a pleasure, honestly, to partner with you. So thank you for your kind words. So that brings us sort of to the conclusion of our formal conversation. And Mark, I wondered if there were questions from the audience that we might be able to spend some time talking about.
Absolutely. We've got lots of questions here. We might not be able to get through all of them, but how did you use the platform to manage the issue of Black Lives Matter? I mean, in Europe, we don't really see what's been happening in the States and how huge an issue this is. So how did you manage BLM and the messaging around that using the platform?
So very good question. I'll kind of answer that 2 ways, right? And just say that from the get-go, I mentioned earlier that we began working on our content strategy 6 months before we ever launched this thing, right? the issue of diversity and inclusion is a very important one at Southern Company Gas, and one we take seriously. So diversity and inclusion was a part of our content strategy from the get-go, right? So that meant we had a Office of D&I channel within our platform that we were already putting really good content into before we ever launched. We also had a channel that was specific to our employee resource group. So we've got, I think, 9 different ERGs. Some people call them affinity groups, but we've got 9 ERGs with, I think, 21 chapters across the multiple states that we operate in. So diversity and inclusion, the issue of D&I has been one that we've taken serious from the get-go. More specifically, I think to some of the things that we've seen recently in regards to, racial injustice and social equity and things like that, we have just absolutely leveraged this platform to have conversations about that, right? So again, I'll give credit to Kim Green, our CEO. She is absolutely leaning into this conversation. And so part of that is she's putting together panels of employees, and we're just having open and real dialogue about race in America, in our company, in the industry, things like that. So we're having live web streaming panel discussions about these things, and we're able to deliver that content, again, directly through this. So we communicate in advance about these conversations, these dialogues that we're going to have, and then we're able so that people are able to plan for them. But then also we've made it a standard practice that before we begin any of these live stream events, we can send a push notification to all employees that link them directly to our live streaming event, right? So you think about it, 10 minutes, 5 minutes before it begins, you get a little push notification right here on your phone. You simply tap it and boom, you're into the live stream, right? You see our CEO and her 3 or 4 panelists, whatever, and you're able to participate, just like that. So that's a long-winded way to say that this has absolutely been a critical component of not only our D&I strategy, but then also how we respond to things that are happening in the world around us.
That's fascinating. Time for, I think, slip another 1 or 2 questions in. Christine Olson, how have you staffed to support this tool, driving content and engagement? She acknowledges your engagement numbers are absolutely amazing. Did you have to staff up in JP, or did you just not get any sleep?
Yeah, another really interesting question. So there was little sleep for a while, Mark, but Rachel kind of touched on it, right? So we quickly identified employees who were engaging with the app and creating user-generated content, right? So one of the ways that we were able to get our arms around feeding content to this platform was pulling those people in, right? So we identified super users, we identified leaders from our employee resource groups, we identified these people outside of corporate communications that we could pull in. We gave them some additional trainings, right, on how to take good photos and post good photos, how to write a good headline and teaser, and how to create good, what are the types of content that we want to see in this platform. And we really empowered them to help us generate content, right? So we weren't able to bring staff into corporate communications necessarily, but we were able to leverage employees that we already have and pull them in and help them be curators of content for us.
Thank you very much. Lovely. Well, look, we're coming up to time now. So this is just to remind everyone that this is a recorded webinar. So if you have a colleague who you think could benefit from watching this, then please do share it with them. We'll be sharing that link with you. And I believe we'll be doing a story on this on Simply Communicate as well. So you'll be able to read about this too. So it just remains really for me to thank our 2 guests, to thank Rachel Williams from SocialChorus, and to thank JP Salmon, who's Director of IC at Southern Company Gas. Quick reminder, SocialChorus will be joining us for the Simply Summit, which is on the 19th of November. So this is our big annual conference, obviously virtual conference, and we'll have about over 1,000 people on this one. And SocialChorus will be just one of the case studies that we'll be looking at in this. We've got some interesting stories coming up. It hasn't. What a year it's been for internal comms. So we're going from GSK, who've had a sort of fantastic time and obviously working incredibly hard, working on that vaccine, through to companies like British Airways, who've had a really tough time of it. So it's going to be every aspect of pain and pleasure of of this whole lockdown story is going to be with us. So just go on to Simply Communicate and you can book your tickets for that. So, and if you want to continue the conversation, then obviously some of you already are. Become a member of the Simply community. This is really important during these hard times. This is where you can meet and talk to other senior people inside internal comms from around the world, where you can collaborate and just have a bit of therapy, because these are tough times, but exciting times for us all. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you again to SocialChorus for organizing this event, and thank you to JP. And just keep watching, keep listening, keep communicating. Thank you very much.
Thank you.